Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up, the podcast where we help students and families navigate the wild journey of the college search and applying to colleges without breaking a sweat. I'm your host, Chuck, and today we're talking about what happens when your student turns 18. And to help me cover this topic, because there's a lot to talk about with this, I brought along my friend Margaret Rothe. Margaret Rothe is the co-founder of CounselMore and a peer mentor to independent educational consultants all around the country.
Hello.
Hello, Margaret. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Chuck.
It is unbelievable to have you here. We've known each other for quite some time, and I was super excited when your team reached out to my team and said, hey, we should record an episode and talk. So I think this is great. I'm excited. Before we dive in on our topic about what happens when students turn 18, why don't you introduce yourself and let our listeners know a little bit more about you?
Great. I am a student affairs professional. I've been in the higher education ecosystem since I entered school, but as a professional since I was 20 years old. That was my first job on campus. And I am in love with the work that I do. After living and working on university campuses for close to 30 years, I then became an independent educational consultant. I then co-founded with some other just incredible people a software that is now used by over 1,000 educational consultants, and it takes you through the admissions data, but also the process of college readiness. And then further to that, I help train other educational consultants to do admissions, but also to launch their businesses.
That's awesome. So if people want more information, head over to counselmore.com, and Margaret or any member of her team would be happy to chat with you.
Yes, they would.
All right. So today's topic is talking about what happens when students turn 18. And because you've been in student affairs and now working obviously with students and parents as an independent educational consultant and helping others, you've seen this from multiple sides. So what are some things that come up when a student turns 18? What are things that parents should be aware of?
If you have it's still just for male students, but there is selective service. So between the ages 18 to 25, you have to be registered with selective service. There's voting. You are capable of signing contracts at that point. You can also get a tattoo or a piercing if you've been waiting to do that. Those things, you are now stepping over the threshold into adulthood, even though for the most part, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like just another day.
Right. And, you brought up your first one, even selective service. Myself as a dude, now back in my time, you had to physically go to the post office and sign something and send it in. Nowadays, when students fill out their financial aid paperwork, it'll say, are you registered for the selective service? And if not, it will move you to that website to make sure that you are registered for the selective service if you are 18 or about to turn 18. I will say it's a little bit of, I know you didn't have to go through this as a woman identifying person, but it's a little weird as a dude to sign that. I can't lie. I still remember being 18 and I went with my best buddy at the time and we had to sign that thing and stick it in the mail, and then you got a confirmation postcard 4 to 6 weeks later saying, you have been registered for the selective service. And I'm going, I hope this never has to actually have to happen. But yeah, it's a little bit frightening. Voting is a big one. I don't think students realize that has to happen, and you actually have to register in most states, not in all states, but in most states you actually have to physically register. And that is a conversation for students to have with themselves and with family members. Do you want to be voting in your home state, or do you want to be voting in where you are going to college if you're going to college out of state? But yeah, that's something that definitely comes up at 18 fast and furious. And I am proud to say that I have voted in all but one election since I was 18, and I didn't vote in the one election because I was on study abroad, and back then it was very hard to vote when you don't live in the United States.
Right, right. And voting is so convenient. Is really now it is very convenient. So registering to vote. But I think that it's important to talk to students about responsibility, and voting, I believe, is a responsibility. You
Yeah.
can't you can't boo. You can't boo if you don't vote.
Well, and my father and I were from very different political ideation backgrounds, and even my father said, you don't have the right to argue or complain about anything unless you vote. So I said, great, I will vote, and then I have the complete right to argue and complain. You also brought up piercings and tattoos. Now, for most parents, piercings might not be, they might be like, oh yeah, my kid's going to get their ear pierced. And no, this means all potential piercings. So have that conversation with your kid before they head off to college. And not to say that your conversation is going to stop them. It definitely did not stop me as I went off to college and got several piercings, which are not visible because I have ear things on right now. Headphones. That's the word I wanted. Headphones on. And I definitely came home one year with a tattoo, and man, was that a conversation to be had with my parents. And literally, my father didn't even think about it. He's like, oh yeah, you can do that now, can't you?
Yeah. Right, right. But when you and I were growing up, it was only tattoos, and piercings was just your ears.
True.
And things have evolved. You can pierce anything these days. Uh, I don't know how you do it, but yes, you can. I
So,
waited until I was 19 to make the, I consider it a mistake because I chose poorly. I didn't choose a piece of jewelry. I got a tattoo at 19. Yeah, as soon as I found out that that came with the growing up package, I was like, well, then I should go and do this. I should go express my individuality. And now to this day, I'm like, yeah, that's mine. That's me. But yeah, so you're old enough to do it, but there's still time. You could think that choice through, not choose something off the wall or from a 3-ring binder that a questionable individual hands you in a trailer in a fair in New Hampshire. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I have no regrets, but I've got plenty of mistakes.
yeah, I mean, I will definitely say my first tattoo probably wasn't my best, most intelligent choice I've ever made in my life, but thankfully now in modern science, I'm able to get that changed and altered and covered up. So that might be a project for the future. It's really funny we're having this conversation today is because I am going in for a tattoo consult later this afternoon. So right on point, right on time, right on schedule. So those are some of the quick and easy.
To remove? Wait, to remove or put on?
Oh no, to add.
We removing?
I'm
Oh,
adding
okay.
I'm adding some new flair. Uh
Nice.
yeah, you
There's
got it. I say you only live once and might as well enjoy it. So, and tattoos are like stickers. You got to kind of collect some if you want to, really enjoy it. Um so we talked about
yeah.
selective service, we talked about voting, tattoos and piercings. Those are kind of the ones that I think are on the front of a lot of people's minds, but what are some other things that you want to make sure that parents are aware of that they may not be thinking about when their kid turns 18?
I feel like most parents get tripped up by the student loans and selective service because all of a sudden your student loan is held up and you can't understand why. And it takes digging to find out, oh, it was selective service. So truly, I think it's an act of bravery to go to the post office like you did and to sign that piece of paper. It's a commitment of patriotism,
Mm-hmm.
I also believe. And there is something that I think that as an individual, you've been, you, when we're growing up, we go to restaurants with our parents. And there comes a point in time where you could just allow your parent to order for you.
Mm-hmm.
or you then feel that push-pull inside where you feel like, well, I take up this chair at this table, therefore I should order myself. And for some of us, we sort of break into the conversation and order for ourselves, and our parents are like, oh, look at that. And they, give us that space, and no one talks about it again. For others of us, we also have the choice to just allow our parents to keep ordering for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? We could just take the path of least resistance. And that piece of paper then is now an official document. So I think that for many of us, we take that path of least resistance, and then we come there to this very official document. And maybe when you're signing it, you don't really understand, or maybe you feel like I've only heard it mentioned once, so it may not be important. So things like that, or are purposely avoided. I don't understand it, so therefore I avoid it, or they are just not invested in. I'll just sign this piece of paper and walk away.
Yeah.
But in both cases, it'll trip you up.
Well, and that's really true, as you said, about student loans. I don't think many parents realize is that some of the student loans, in particular the Stafford Loan program, is signed by the student. It's not signed by the actual parent. It's signed by the student because they are now adults and they are going off to college. And parents do have a loan that they could sign, which is called the Parent Plus loan, or if they're doing an external loan outside of a college or university. But students, as part of their adulthood, have the ability to sign up for the Stafford Loan program at the age of 18. They do have to go through an onboarding process. Typically, this is done online, where they learn about what the loan is and how the interest works for the particular type of loan that they have. But you're right. Most students just are so used to clicking the box of like, yep, I acknowledge, I affirm, I sign my name, and move it on through. And they may not realize all of the terms and stipulations that come with signing on to an educational loan like the Stafford loan.
Yes, yes. I have a lot of parents who will have the student take out the loans while they are accumulating interest on an account. And then they'll sort of hold that over the student's head. And then if the student successfully graduates, then they'll come back and pay off the whole loan. So the student doesn't really understand the impact of the loan that they're signing because they have this umbrella shelter system. And if my advice to parents when they have that type of situation is not to tell the student, because bearing the burden of responsibility is part of the necessary friction that you must persist through to get to your 4-year degree, your undergraduate degree. And I think that is part. It's not just about what you learn in the classroom. I believe that higher education is an evolution of self, and that what happens outside of the classroom in your pursuit of knowledge is just as valuable as what happens in the classroom. And that is why in our structural functionalism of our society, we make allowances and pardons for, hey, I'm a student. Another thing that happens when you're 18 is that you can be summoned for jury duty. But in many cases, you can say I'm a full-time student and you will be pardoned out of jury duty. So okay, you bear the responsibility of being a student. So I had a student who was incredibly fortunate. His grandmother was, her husband had died. She inherited a lot of money. She then passed. And when she passed, the boy and the grandmother were quite close. They had a bit of a synergy that nobody understood. So when she passed, he was quite devastated. But the family pulled me aside and said, so our son has inherited $3 million at the time of grandma's death. And I said, whoa, hey, did anyone tell him that? And they said, no, actually, we're sharing this with you. This was found out yesterday. Do you think that this will impact where he goes to school? Right? Which was like this odd question of like, so we have this extra money. Does that change what schools he can go to? And I said, the only thing that it changes is that after he graduates, he will then become aware that he has inherited this money. But I would encourage you not to tell him a dang thing and let him pursue this and go through this rite of passage and then reward him. But Unfortunately, they told him, and all of his motivation for school went right out the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
We need.
yeah, and thankfully that particular scenario is not the common scenario of the day. That is a once in a lifetime. You may never have a client like that again that you've had that conversation with. But I think the fact that the student is unaware of that makes things better. And I have had parents where they told me that they plan to help pay for things once the student graduates from college. And again, this is not normal. I don't want parents to be like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to help pay my kid's loan off afterwards. No, a lot of families are not in the financial situation to do that. But if you are and that's your choice, I agree with Margaret, is that don't tell the kid that. Do it as a surprise. You graduated and we're going to help you out with this. Which were things that, I think are a great plan to have for parents, but yeah, don't tell the kid right away, like, well, okay, if you do really well, we'll pay everything off. I think that's going to lack their motivation. They need to be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to start paying this off, and that might help as well. So I don't think most parents understand truthfully that students are so used to clicking I agree, I acknowledge, and I affirm on things that this starts off right away during the application process, where I am meeting with students and families almost on the daily, especially right now. So right now it is, we're about to start application season for the rising seniors. The Common App is about to go live for the next year. It is almost August 1. Yeah, this is go time. In our world as counselors, parents, we are right now preparing for the storm to hit. So I told in a meeting yesterday, I was like, it feels like I'm in the eye of a hurricane. It's calm right now. It's going to be okay. And I'm waiting for the next wave of water to hit me, which is August 1. So what happens is in the application process, already we start to acknowledge the adulthood of our young people. And I don't think they realize that it starts now. Even though many of them are not 18, when they are applying to college, they're starting to deal with laws, rules, and regulations that will impact them as an adult.
Yes, 100%. You will see on the Common App that they will ask you to sign away your FERPA right, your Federal Educational Records Protection Act. So your GPA, your grades, your report card, feedback from your teachers, your truancy record, attendance record, all of that is for no one to see but you, and who you specifically allow and share that information with on a temporary, limited basis. Because no one needs their permanent record haunting them when they're 36.
Which it does happen, unfortunately.
It does. And I was just listening to Terry Gross on PBS. She's a radio host. She's been around for a very long time. She does these incredible interviews where she's very intimate with the people that she's interviewing. Somehow she has this way of just really getting people to articulate. And I was listening to this incredible woman just last night. She wrote a book about AI, but her life in AI. She's a journalist. She's not she interacts and engages with the products from a journalist point of view. She doesn't immerse herself and use it as a user. So as this sort of strictly observer journalist, she's written this book about AI. But she pointed out that something that I think that especially our 18-year-olds and the parents of those 18-year-olds don't understand, that feeding information into these AI tools, these AI models are being trained in order to absorb not our intelligence, but our intuition.
Yeah.
And if you are collecting, if a student is going to any application on the web and answering questions about their hopes, dreams, and desires, that data is being assimilated other places. You are being identified by your other attributes. And if we can then model on your hopes, dreams, and desires prior to your primary voting age, I can extrapolate that. And in just a couple of years, I can tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. And that is what I find so incredibly frightening, that our students are just clicking, I agree, I acknowledge, and they're becoming immune to their own sense of privacy and autonomy.
Yeah.
And being a Gen Xer, we don't like nobody in our business. So to see these younger people just have their privacy completely trampled, I think that for those of us who are of this certain age, that and to be in education our entire lives,
Right.
where we assume educational policy and we uphold that policy and we learn it, we enact it, but then it becomes part of our intuition, our instinct as career student affairs professionals, that things like this just grate right against us. They rub us the wrong way.
Yeah.
So if students could just be a little more aware of protecting their privacy.
Well, and to that point, it even happens with the SEO of doing college searches. So even before they get into the application process, but I do want to come back to the Family Education Rights and Protection Act, the FERPA, but even before they get to applying, as you are searching for colleges, whatever website search engine you're using gets used to what you've been searching for. And then it will tell you, oh, you've looked at Cornell and Harvard, you should also look at Yale. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't if that's the right fit for you, but I was talking to a young lady yesterday who lived in the middle of absolute nowhere, Alabama. She's a first-generation student. She has a single parent. She is not very college ready, and her academics have been all over the place. But of course, she's been searching online for what is the best college to go to, and it's popping up all of the Ivies and the hyper selectives. And I'm just going, and then my student affairs soul is saying, that is not going to work for this young lady. She's not academically ready for that environment. Her GPA is low. Her education has been sporadic. The family has moved around a lot. I'm just going, and she's just going, and she's messaging me on TikTok saying, how do I get into Harvard? I've been told that that's the best school. And I'm like, well, that's because your search engine has now been programmed that way because you've searched for it and it's constantly doing that. Because when students come to me and they say, oh, I've been on TikTok or Instagram and I see these colleges and it's the same 30 colleges that other students are seeing, it's because the algorithm is showing you those things and you're not being shown the nearly 3,000 other opportunities that are in the United States that might be a better available fit to you academically, socially, and financially. So as you've been clicking on, yes, I accept the cookies, or yes, I acknowledge this, because you're trying to get information on the web, as you said, Margaret, that the web is harvesting that information and then figuring out what it should be sending you next. So you get into this very much small little circle of information and you're not being shown all of the things available to you.
No, I mean, and it's not just like your Google search or your Bing or whatever it is that you use to search the internet. And even if you're a DuckDuckGoer, you're still,
Yep,
they're going to find out, right? Because you go from DuckDuckGo to another app, right? And that app will say, we'll help you find a college. And then you'll answer those questions in there, believing that it's taking you through a series of questions to help you find your school.
right.
But all of those things that they're collecting about you, those are not adding up somewhere and then they're finding the school for you. They're just taking, your vote, your click on your hopes, dreams, and desires so that they can profile you on the back end. That information is then packaged and sold to enrollment management, who is admissions, right? Because universities and colleges, we got to eat too, right? In every college is a business. We have to pay our professors. We got to keep the lights on. So yes, it is transactional. Surprise. But in university, we're not asking you all those questions like that. We then go looking for students who would be a good fit for our school. And all of those little applications that are out there saying, we'll help you find a college, we're buying that data.
Yeah.
That's what we buy. And then we check your attribute, where you are in what state. And then we go and look at College Board and we see the SAT numbers. And then we could drill down to your high school.
Yep.
It's not hard. I can ID you pretty quickly. Maybe not, you, Sally, but, with some of these tools, I can get right down to you, Sally.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic probably for another episode. We can track, students, when students are wondering, why am I getting certain mail from certain colleges and certain email, I'm like, you are being scouted based off of the data that you provided either online or on a web form, or when you signed up for pre-ACT, PSAT, SAT, ACT, whatever. Or you just fill out one of those lovely little random surveys of, fill out this survey and we'll show you colleges that match what you're looking for. Yeah, the random things that pop up.
No harm done. No harm done.
U.S. News.
No harm done.
Yeah, Princeton Review. I'm looking at you.
And now
at you.
Right, exactly. Well, and well, not just, I mean, they were the leaders, right? But we're going to get a candidate in a couple years, and we're going to be like, oh, we just love that candidate. Yeah. And we're all going to wonder, why is that candidate so perfect? Well, because it was created just for you.
Yeah.
Just for you. Also, though, but I think hiring an independent educational consultant, you have to ask, are you sharing my data?
Yes.
I'm going to give you my unofficial transcript. Can you tell me if you're going to share this with other people? Our educational consultants, you and I, we have conversations about students all of the time. Mm-hmm. But those are conversations on a need-to-know basis, and we never talk about their names. Right? We never talk about their names. We talk about, profiles, and we run hypotheticals through our conversations, which are not being tallied anywhere. That's a professional discretion. Mm-hmm. But when you and I are sharing their information beyond that, it just becomes a little scary for me. Yeah. But so I think for students, when you turn 18, your privacy is a concern, and you should protect that. You should just do whatever you can to protect that. Do you know that when I go to, so your medical records at 18 at HIPAA now is all you, right? So now you can go to the doctor's office by yourself at 18. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, at 17, just the day before, you would have had to have your guardian with you.
Right.
So now that these are my medical records and I'm in charge, I do not have my doctor put notes into my chart. Yeah. I will say, what are you typing there? What notes are going into that chart? Have you noticed that all of the medical offices are all using the same 2 softwares? Mm-hmm. If you go to your dentist and ask them what they're using, and then go over to your physical therapist, 2 very disparate professions. Oh, you're both using the same software. Oh, it's because I'm in your network. Yeah, but then you'll come to find out that everybody's in the network. It just is which way I'm holding the Venn diagram at the moment.
Yeah.
So we have to become so much more protective over our privacy. And I don't think that it ever occurs to us at the age of prior to 18.
No, and it really, I think, becomes very obvious, as we mentioned earlier, in the application process. So as students are filling out the application, I don't care if it's Common App, any of the other applications that are out there, at some point in time, the student is going to run into FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Protection, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. And this is basically saying that as an adult, you have the right to guard your educational information and that it is private to you. Now, why does this come up when you are applying to colleges? Is that part of your information when you are applying are the letters of recommendation that come from teachers, counselors, and other people that are involved in the process. And when you go through something like Common App or another application website, it's going to say, would you like to waive your FERPA rights at this time? And there's a lot of us that have this conversation with students every year, and I do. And for the vast majority of my students, I do actually encourage them to waive these rights. So what does that mean? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on FERPA in the application process, Margaret.
Well, it's my understanding that for the Common App, they're asking you to waive it for the chain of custody coming from your high school. And then those recommenders are going to push that to your high school counselor. So recommenders in the traditional sense. So this would be teachers within your high school who are then taking the recommendations, usually through a software application, and then they're funneling that up to the high school counselor, who then is preparing that documentation. And then by an encryption, a chain of custody, it will then be transported from the high school to the Common App. And then the Common App reveals that information to the schools that you are applying to. And then those schools will then pull your application from the Common App and dump that into their own independent databases. And it will say that the student has not had the privy of reading these recommendation letters. So they have said, yes, you can send my official transcript to these universities by okaying my FERPA. I'm saying, yes, you can send my transcript and my educational records to these universities, sharing it with Common App and beyond. And no, I have not read my letters of recommendation prior to them reaching you.
Correct.
But once you have denied me from your school, their right to my FERPA, my release of FERPA, ends. That is now closed because the purpose of that is now over. Pardon my little bell. Let me make sure that doesn't happen again. So that closes that intention. Now, with the school that did accept you, your purpose with them, they now have an educational record right from your high school.
Correct.
So they have the right to own and possess your educational record, and especially because you have applied to them, they have now accepted you. If you then decline, I don't want to go to your school, their right to FERPA is now closed.
Correct.
Right? So it was only temporarily open while we were having this negotiation, and now it is closed. Once I now say enroll, I'm now enrolling at your school, that school can now pursue you and pursue your high school for other educational records. And that's all covered because you've said, yes, now I'm enrolling. So our contract, our agreement between each other where I'm temporarily releasing my FERPA to you is now extended so that you can pursue the rest of my educational records and get me registered and such. But once I come onto campus and classes start, it's really just the registrar's office, the Department of Records, whatever that is called on your campus, has right to your records. That does not mean that university housing does. That does not mean that the health department on your campus, if you're so lucky to have one, has right to your FERPA. It only means the records department. So if you were then to now move on to campus, Residence Life then may come to you and say, will you please release your FERPA because you're 17 years of age, usually first semester, many students are 17, and then they'll turn 18 October, November, December, somewhere in there. But while you are under 18 years of age, Residence Life may say, will you please sign away your FERPA? Residence Life may also just say that to everybody who's living in the dorms because it's just easier just to have a blanket that everybody's got a FERPA signed. And then what you will have is in the dorms, as Chuck knows this better than anybody, you will have actual index cards because we cannot rely on technology in the state of crisis. So we will have cards on hand that have all of our students in alphabetical order, and we will have their in case of emergency card, and we will have their signed FERPA. Because that means if something goes wrong, this is the number I call, and I have the full right to share whatever I need to with that person, because that's your person. They care about you the most in the world. You told me to call this person in case of emergency. Well, Here I am, and I need to be able to tell them everything. So there it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I agree, and I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding from my interaction of working at a college campus is that when you sign FERPA away during the application process, that is really between you, your high school information, and enrollment management, better known as admissions. So that's doing that type of information that way. Once you decide to enroll, you've now moved from I am a secondary student, meaning high school, into a post-secondary. FERPA turns back on, and now you would have to decide if you would like to waive it again, because now you are from a secondary educational position, which is 6 through 12, to a post-secondary, which is now college. And this is something that comes up and what students and parents need to talk about as to whether this should be waived or not. I will tell you right now, when I was in college and I was there, I did not waive my FERPA rights. Now, what did that mean? So it meant that I possessed all of my own educational knowledge, records, and what I was doing at the college, and my parents could not call and get information. So mom could not call and check on my grades. Mom could not call and find out, was I naughty or nice this last weekend? What was I doing? What was going on? Was I having a rowdy party in my dorm room? Don't ask my freshman roommate, and who's still a friend of mine. But, they couldn't really invade my privacy. I was over 18. And for some parents, they may say, well, but wait, I'm paying for this. I should have the ability to find out what my child is doing day in and day out. And I struggle with this because part of going off to college is moving from a state of dependence to a state of independence. And I understand that parents are paying, but I don't know if I would want my mother calling on the daily to find out how I was doing. So in my state of mind, I did not waive it. Now, I also made a contract with my parents, literally, that my parents said, okay, as long as we are paying this, you need to be sharing your grades with us. So every time grades came out, I made sure that I showed them legitimately what my grades were. And as long as that conversation was happening, my parents were fine with the fact that I did not waive away my FERPA rights. So that was my journey and my conversation with my parents. But parents and students need to have this conversation because once they're there, this is different than high school where mom could or dad could pick up the phone and call the high school counseling office and say, how are they doing in English class? And they would probably answer. Where in college, they're not going to tell you how they're doing in the first year writing seminar because that's none of your business. Thank you, FERPA.
Yeah. Yeah. You can, it's wonderful that there are cell phones and that we can text our student and say, how are you doing?
Yep.
Because there is so much acclimation in the first, 6 weeks, 8 weeks prior to Thanksgiving break.
Yep.
I know that there are parents who have had, their older students go off to college, and now they're about to have a younger student go off to college. And I would ask them to reflect for a moment. When the older student left and came back for Thanksgiving, they looked different, right? They had a different look in their eyes. And if you look at your student who has not yet gone off to college, take a picture of them because the look in their eyes changes when they come back for Thanksgiving break. In my practice, I have a Thanksgiving check-in. So I work with juniors and seniors who are in high school across the bridge of transition to college. That's where my focus is. But my last meeting with my students is Thanksgiving of their freshman year of college because I like to see the changed look in their eyes. I feel like, yes, another one, I feel like I'm the little elf that took them all the way across the bridge. We have made it to the other side. So I think that you can text your student a lot, and that is a wonderful grace that you can do. It gives the student, the knowledge that you are thinking of them, that there is a beacon out there that's sort of, blinking in the darkness, that I'm here for you. And the student then has the choice to reach back. And that we, as parents, it's terrifying when they don't reach back, right? Because we just love them so much. But we have to allow them the space not to text back, right? Or just to text that little thumbs up that just says, like, I liked what you had to say. Right, alive. I have an educational consultant friend who tells me to do the proof of life. And she has a group text message where she sends proof of life to her group of people. And then everyone has to send back something in a minute or two. And that just allows everybody to just sort of feel like, oh, warm embrace, and now we're done. But if your student is someone who is going off to campus and they have previously struggled in high school, and they have put together a new routine, maybe they are on a regular medication. If that student is sort of still feeling the walls for the light switch, let's say,
Yeah.
as many of us are, it doesn't matter what age you are,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
it's important that we send that student to campus with a safety net that, this is your insurance card. If you need something and it's the middle of the night, this is where you would go. The local hospital is here. You just walk right into the emergency room. That's all you have to do. They will take care of the rest. Our medical insurance will cover it. That you've had the medical insurance conversation before they leave, and you have that safety net. And then in the worst case scenario, if you're feeling like a kid has not texted me for weeks and I'm now worried, like I'm legitimately worried. I'm not mad. That wouldn't be a good place to act from. But if you are legitimately concerned and your student is living on the campus, in loco parentis, living on the campus, then you can call the campus resident director and you can say, can I have a welfare check? FERPA or not?
Yes.
Can I have a welfare check? And they will go and put eyes on your student and just check their health, safety, and welfare, because that is their only responsibility to your student. And if they can check all three boxes, they will say health, safety, and welfare, done. And then you just have that, proof of life text message that you were looking for. And I think those are good boundaries. That might sound like a big process, but I think that those are the kinds of boundaries that the student needs and that also parents need, right? Because for everyone involved, we are in a moment of transition. The student is transitioning, parents are transitioning, right? Suddenly, a very busy house is much less busy.
Yes.
It's painfully quiet when the student goes away. I mean, there's a reason why they call it empty nest, right? It feels weird. You had lots of responsibility only months ago, and now you have no lunches to make. No one to pick up and drive to the next location.
Yeah.
It is a very disorienting feeling. And I think that for moms, it is being in a house that was suddenly active and now it's empty is startling for most moms.
Well, I was gonna say, and not just moms, but any stay-at-home parent is just like, okay, if you were working from home in any capacity and you're used to seeing your kid coming home all the time and you're like, okay, whoa. I was definitely one of those, and I grew up as an only, and so, like, when I left, it was just like, okay, wait, what are we doing? So these are all great things, and make sure that you have these conversations with their kid. Do they have a copy of their medical insurance card, their dental card, all their information? Do they know these types of things? And if you are really concerned about your kid launching and getting started in college, you may want to have that conversation of having them waive their FERPA rights. However, I always warn students that means that your parents can be 100% up in your business while you are at college, and that could later lead to an awkward conversation. So talk about it. But if you're concerned, if your kid has been struggling with mental health stuff, or if things are really going not so well and you're extra nervous about dropping them off in the fall, you may want to have that conversation about letting them waive their FERPA rights so you can check in with them a little bit better and keep track of them a little bit better. But yeah, have that conversation. But yeah, they get control of a lot of this stuff. There's other things that happen. Students are going to be able, once they're 18, to sign up for credit cards on their own, sign rental leases, sign lots of different government documents. And so have that conversation, I really believe, and I'm going to bet you're going to agree with me, but have that conversation so that the student isn't just willy-nilly checking the box, signing things, and not understanding. Because we've all seen this, the 5 pages of microprint that happen. It's just like you just scroll past all the microprint and then you have to sign something. Some of those are, yes, we see it 5 different times. Like when I'm at the doctor, I'm not going to read it every time. But those, credit card offers on college campuses can be very enticing. You might get the ability to win a brand new $300 mountain bike, or maybe you're going to get a $500 gift card or something like that. and students go, oh, I just have to fill out this little, sign up form and they'll register for me. I'm like, they now have your information and they now have signed you up for a credit card, which will impact your credit score literally for the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes. If you want to apply for student loans, your first stop should not be applying for a credit card. No way. Because now you're on the hit list.
Yep.
Now you're on the hit list. You are just prime candidate. They know that there's going to be a time in a student's life where you're just, the only answer is the credit card. And if that plastic is in your hand, whoa, you're going to use it. You're going to use it. And that's that can just start digging a hole. And the best thing to do when you're digging a hole is to stop digging.
Yeah. However,
go
ahead.
Can I interject about vocational programs?
Sure.
So I have many students who, to get through school, my advice has been that there needs to be a means to an end. And the means to an end is about acquiring a skill that you can get paid for while you are pursuing your degree. So, for instance, actually, this is an idea of another educational consultant, Annapolis College Counseling. They were telling me about a student who needed to find a means to an end. And she also was in a sorority and believed not only in her own sorority's mission, but in the world of Greek life. She saw a greater purpose. So what she decided to do was that there's all of these sorority events, and all of these people who are attending the events wanted to have spray tans. So she got a spray tan machine, and then she made the money that she needed to. I have another student who trained to be a barber, and while being a barber, then pursued school. So all of that looks great. Those are all great ideas, right? But we have other students where college is not for them. But for a mere $20,000, you could become a motorcycle mechanic.
Yep.
You could, there are lots of these vocational training programs, and many of them are very good.
Yep.
Many of them are very good. But there are many who are specifically looking for students who have just turned 18. Because when you are 18, you can sign that contract.
Yes.
And how many of us, just think back to when you were 18, how many of us wanted some sense of empowerment? Just, give me anything. And we were seeking it out with earnest. And then here comes someone who says, now I'm going to give you a why. And, the elusive why of life. I'm going to give you a why, and for only $20,000, and you can pay me that back in just $500 a month or $300 a month, whatever. And meanwhile, you're going to come here and learn how to do this thing, but you also have to purchase these tools, purchase this, purchase that, purchase this. And now they're caught up in a contract, and the parent will then go to the agency and say, you took advantage of my student. This person didn't understand the full impact. And the vocational school has every right to then say, no, they were 18.
Yep.
They signed this piece of paper. You now owe me this money. And that is that. It is a contract. It is signed. It is done.
I have seen that.
So you need to be careful.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, especially in my area with cosmetology programs. Students will be like, okay, you get to work on your own, set your own hours, you get to make money, people hand you, tips once you're, working in cosmetology. And it's a really great profession. You have to go through, because in I believe every state, I know in Wisconsin, you have to have a license. Well, you have to go through this training program in order to get this license. And the training program only costs $20,000. And you know what? We're going to provide that to you as a loan while you are going through the program. But don't worry, you're going to make a lot of money once you're done. So just sign here. We'll set up an educational loan for you through our cosmetology school. That's not through the federal government. So it's a private loan. And you're going to go through cosmetology school and you're going to love it and you're going to make a lot of money. And so now not only are you signed up for the loan, but also many students don't complete cosmetology school. They find out that it is a very challenging job, a very physically driven job. And so they're on the hook for the loan, and their body has also now been like their hands are sore, their feet are sore. Like, I mean, they've taken some physical tolls, and the credits from many of these types of programs do not transfer to a traditional university. So you've now spent time, educational time, that is not transferable. Now, I'm not saying don't become a cosmetology person. I have been with the same cosmetologist. The person who's done my hair has done my hair for 25 years. You can't see it right now because
God bless
it's under a head. Right. And it's a great profession, and I know lots of people that love that profession. I'm just worried about 18-year-olds who see the glitz and glam, and they go, yep, I'm going to sign up for that, and I'm going to take out a educational loan to be able to go to cosmetology school because I'm going to make $1 million being the next best hairstylist to the stars. So that's another one. When you're 18, you're itching for something to give you ability to earn money, to get some clout, to get your feet underneath you. And there are people out there that are trying to lure those students into those types of contracts.
Yes. Yes. My focus throughout all of my educational training, through my student affairs training, has been that ages 18 to 22, because I love people between those two ages. When I meet somebody in that age, I will say, "How old are you?" And they'll say, "I'm 20." And I'm like, "Oh, hi." And then they think it's a little weird, but it's my thing, right? I just want to know, what is it that you're thinking about? And the reason why is because I am so intrigued by this moment in time where you have this great quest and you don't know what your quest is yet. You have no idea. Some of us hear calling at a much younger age, and how blessed are you to hear that calling? I have a student who I spoke to recently, and he said that he wanted to go to med school. So like all of my students who want to go to med school, my first question is, when did you first have this thought? What was the actual thought? What were you doing at the moment? What was the stream of consciousness that brought you to this calling? I want to dig into that moment of inspiration that it came to them, because I have found that the pre-med student who's going to go to school until kingdom come, right? I mean, it's just going to go on forever when you're a doctor.
A lot of years.
So your level of perseverance is going to have to be rock solid commitment, right? So I need to know that you actually heard the calling. You know, it wasn't like your Aunt Judy who was like, you should be a doctor. You know, like, you're good at math, be a doctor, right? That's not a great reason.
No.
Getting through med school because someone else said to is, oh God, incredibly painful. So those moments of inspiration where someone hears a calling and drives for something, I think is incredibly empowering. But when someone just hands you an answer, like, you're good at hair, here, you should do this, that sounds super duper easy. And nothing in life is easy. Nothing. And nothing that you truly desire and want was ever easy anyway. We're all most proud of all of the things that we're like, you know what I had to do to get there? That's what we own and feel good about. So anytime an 18-year-old is feeling like, wow, that seems, nothing wrong about that, you should absolutely question. Anything that's free, you are the product. Number one rule in life. If they say free, you're the product. And number two rule is, if it's easy, it's not true.
And the hard part is that
there will always...
and a lot of the social media influencers make it look like, oh, I just accomplished this in 30 days and I became a millionaire and it was really easy. And, and I think a lot of young people are influenced by that. And I have worked with some social media, I would say, influencers over the years. And truth be told, they've been working on that project for a very long time. This is not something that just magically took off because they had one viral video or one viral podcast, like this podcast that you're listening to right now. They didn't have just one that made them infamously famous and amazing. It took time to build a following, to build followers, and to create a brand. Well, Margaret,
yes.
I love chatting with you. We could go on for hours, but I want to give you the opportunity to what is your soapbox? What is the one thing that you want to make sure that parents and students know right now I'm giving you the ability to talk to everyone and share a thought with them.
We should not be afraid of the new generation of technology because none of us can stop the times. But we should be vigilant in protecting our privacy and the privacy of our students, because we do not know if this road leads to the dystopia that we all fear. And if we can avoid that, it will be in the small measures and choices that we make today. I think that's probably all I should say about that.
That was a great closing thought, and hopefully we can write that down, because that was incredibly deep thought. Margaret, thank you so much for being here. Margaret is the co-founder of CounselMore.com and a peer mentor to independent educational consultants all around the country. It's been a pleasure. I always love chatting with you. It's always great when we run into each other in person and online, of course, but it's just such a pleasure to always chat with you. We always have great conversations because we both have that student affairs bug inside of us that has kept us going for all of this time.
So good to see you again, Chuck, and I can't wait to start touring campuses with you again. We do always have the best student affairs conversations. Thank you for this.
No problem. It's been wonderful to have you on the show. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today, but fear not, we will be back next week with more tips and tricks to help you conquer the college application process like a boss. Until then, remember, don't chuck it up.